Welcome to Discover the Difference. Today we're going to have a conversation with Bruno Melli, the new general manager for Soccer Fanatics. During our conversation with Bruno, he talks about his entrepreneurial journey, where he learned from his whole family about how to start a business and grow it and the success around that. And so it's no surprise to learn about Bruno's success, both in his own company and the companies that he's worked for along this journey.
Let's pick up where we were off camera. You're originally from Mexico City, and Gabe, you were asking?
No, just, when did you move to the U.S. and, what kind of brought you to the U.S.?
Moved to the U.S. when I was 12. What brought us to the U.S., I was a big swimmer, and my dad was doing a ton of business with a steel company out of Nebraska called Nucor Steel, one of the bigger U.S. companies. And we used to vacation in Denver a week a year.
Skiing in Vail, or?
So yeah, we used to ski in Vail.
Yeah, that's where all the
Mexicans go there. Yeah, exactly. So my dad at that point was doing so much business. He said, there's a good opportunity for us to move, and then it would be good for Bruno to get, better coaching for swimming. And we already know Denver, and that's kind of how we landed there. Went through the visa process, became residents, and originally we were going to go back to Mexico, and we never did.
Wow.
Yeah.
You went to school at Columbia, right?
Yeah, I got my executive MBA at Columbia University, in New York.
So were you in Denver the whole time up until you started college, or?
I've kind of been all over the place. Landed in Denver with my family, did the last year of elementary school, middle school, and high school in Denver. Did a year at CU Boulder, and then I kind of started moving everywhere. I came to San Diego, actually. Did my undergrad at San Diego State. Studied economics and finance, but actually ended up working in Nordstrom to put myself through school. And a mentor of mine in that era of my life said, you're kind of good at this fashion thing. You should pursue a career here. And I did. And then Nordstrom took me to Denver, and then eventually got recruited to work for Hugo Boss in New York. So I went Denver, San Diego for 7-ish years, then back to Denver with Nordstrom, and then New York with Hugo Boss. Was in New York for another 7, and then came home. I consider San Diego home. It's where I've spent most of my time.
You glossed over a little bit, like getting that job with Nordstrom's. Was there intention in this apparel journey you've been on, or how did you just dumb luck into that industry?
Not really. Yeah, it was kind of luck.
What was your first job at Nordstrom's?
I was selling suits.
Oh,
so it was just and it wasn't even my first. I had done like part-time retail jobs before, but this was my first full-time job. And the money was good. That's really why I was there. But then I realized that over time I became really good, A, at selling, and then B, with the fashion lens of selling. So kind of pursued a career there, and being savvy with the fashion element and knowing your numbers was a good combination, and ended up being really, really good for my career.
Was there something about Nordstrom's that kind of like put you into this idea of like brand, or,
Honestly, yeah, because I think, it's diluted a bit, and I think that's why Nordstrom went back to being a private company. But Nordstrom was built on these amazing values, which were focused around the consumer, and how they call it the upside down pyramid, where the salespeople that interact with customers are the most important people in the organization, because they are face to face with who is the most valuable thing, which is the customer. And that really, I think that laid the seeds for my career, because that customer centric lens became super useful to me. And had I not been at Nordstrom and not gone through their future Nordstrom leaders, is what they call it, I probably wouldn't have pursued a job or a career in fashion.
What was it about that program that really highlighted the customer the way that had such an impact on you?
I think it wasn't the program so much as just the day to day, the way that your managers would coach you how to talk to customers, colleagues in at Nordstrom would approach selling in a different way. So it was more of the culture that I absorbed, and then Future Nordstrom Leaders, the program, really taught me how the retail industry isn't just buying, an item and that's it. There's a ton of career opportunities behind retail, but when people think of retail, they're like, oh, I'm gonna be a cashier or, a salesperson for the rest of my life, and it's really not. There's a wide range of opportunity, and that's what I learned from that program.
That's awesome. Where along that journey did you get the like entrepreneurial spirit to step out and start your own thing?
It's funny because I don't think that I got it at Nordstrom. I think culturally, and you were mentioning your wife's Mexican, so you probably can relate to a certain degree. But I think the Mexican culture in nature is very entrepreneurial. Like we're builders, and I'm not an exception. I think when I think of myself, one of the things that I would use to describe myself is I love to build things. And I think that's what has driven my entrepreneurial spirit. Whenever I enter a company or a task or a role, I always think not only of like, how do I get the job done, but like, how do I create? And it's been a kind of a unique take, but I love that part of any job, really.
Is that something that like you got also from your father or from your family or from friends or?
Yeah. I mean, my dad was an entrepreneur. He started multiple businesses. All my friends, a majority of my friends don't really follow the corporate path in Mexico. They either, take over a company or, go into a search fund to buy a company or, end up building something from scratch. And that's kind of the culture that I was raised in. Like my aunts, uncles, and, older cousins were all doing that. So I got to watch from the sidelines and ended up kind of taking my own spin on it.
Is totally side question is what's the background on Bruno, and then is Meli a traditional Mexican name?
No, my dad's side of the family is from Italy. My grandpa and my uncle came to Mexico, and my grandpa was a chef. But that's how the roots in Mexico on my dad's side started. And my mom's side of the family is, I think they're like third generation Mexican, but originally from Spain.
Yeah.
But the Melli last name's Italian, and I'm the third Bruno. My dad's Bruno, and my grandpa's name's Bruno as well.
Okay.
I mean, Bruno Mars is the only other one I know.
Yeah.
So it's
for a long time, Bruno's not a very common name.
Yeah.
In comes Bruno Mars, and now it's different.
You're on the map now.
Yeah. And
My grandfather had a dog named Bruno.
yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. That was the most common relation to Bruno was dogs, a lot of dogs.
Was it? There was a famous. Forget it. Let's get off Bruno the dog. But that's awesome. Well, tell us about the brand you started and what was the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, my first entrepreneurial venture was this business called Luso Vida that I founded in 2018. And at that time, I just started Colombia. So I was starting to explore and understand, what it took to really get a big scaled business going. But I wanted to bring something back to Latin America. I think that's where it all started. And having the fashion background, I knew that one of the biggest issues in fashion in Latin America was the tariffs and the duties that make importing and exporting difficult. So that was the pain I was solving for. And the biggest pain is for luxury brands because, the life cycle of products is very short. So I built a platform similar to Farfetch or, some of the e-com things you see in the US, but to liquidate luxury goods in Latin America, which, historically fashion brands were, burning or disposing of the product and eventually depreciating it to zero because it was more costly to export the product than to depreciate it. So they would hold it, destroy it in some capacity. So when this business started, it was really the only avenue the luxury brands had to move product and get out of it without damaging their full price channels. So I launched that in 2018, was super successful. COVID helped quite a bit, obviously, and eventually exited the business and sold in 2021 to our biggest customer. And that was my first entrepreneurial venture.
Well, that's a quick turnaround.
It was quick.
Yeah.
Honestly, it grew very fast. We acquired a business strategically in early 2020. They were going through a tough time, and it made sense for us, and it catapulted the business. So I thought that capitalizing on some of the growth that we had gotten through COVID was good timing.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really incredible. I can't believe nobody thought of that. I mean, last time we went to Europe, I remember my wife saying, "Oh, I want to go check out something at Louis Vuitton," and we go, and there's like 200 Asian people waiting for it to open, and I'm like, "Why are there so many like Chinese people in line?" She's like, "They all literally come and buy everything, so they don't pay the taxes on it when they take it back home." I'm like, "There's that big of a business for it?" She's like, "Yeah, it might be $1,200 for an expensive purse." And I'm like, holy smokes. Like, I don't know how I never really registered that, but I can't believe they were just destroying it.
Yeah, I think the reason why nobody had thought of it is Latin America historically is just not as big of a business as China or Europe. It's kind of been a fringe business. Like, luxury brands are in there, but it's usually a very small footprint. But when you think about like how much inventory compounded over like 10 years they had, for me, it was a huge opportunity. And then obviously Mexico is the biggest luxury market in Latin America, but there's others like Brazil's big, Argentina's big.
So it seems like it's changed now because you go to a mall in Mexico City and they've got every brand, it feels like.
Yeah, it has changed. But the reality is the duties and the duties and the pains of importing and exporting they've actually gone backwards.
So they're still paying twice.
With the regime now, it's become even more difficult because they try to protect the local economy more, which is like leather producers, footwear producers. So it's gotten worse, and it's become more entangled and bureaucratic to run businesses.
Yeah.
Which, for a company that doesn't really know what they're doing is extremely painful to get into. So yeah, it was a good one. It was a good business. Enjoyed it, learned a lot, learned what to do, but more importantly, what definitely not to repeat. And it was great.
So then I think it's after that you sort of cross into where the sports world intersects fashion, right? How does that kind of unpack?
Yeah, the way I kind of landed there was when I sold the business, I realized that I wanted to use my experience and move it into a field where I was personally passionate about. I was never a kid that watched runway shows or that was up to date with the latest trend. I wasn't that kid. I was a kid that watched sports. From the moment he woke up to the second he went to sleep, I used to go to bed with SportsCenter every night, So when I sold the business, I realized, I had a conversation with my wife and I said, I want to focus on, businesses that I'm personally, invested in. And that's how sports came about. I knew somebody at Major League Soccer that I've been chatting with, and they needed some help to revamp and restructure their consumer products. They were going through massive growth. And I came in with obviously a different perspective coming from the fashion world, and then was able to help them steer the ship a little bit and get MLS's consumer products in a good spot.
I just had this vision of a Tuesday night where at like 9 o'clock, you two crashing into each other in an indoor soccer old man league, and cussing and each other out in Spanish.
Could happen.
I think it's like a date with destiny is gonna unpack in this conversation, because he's like he's got a bit of a reputation on the old man soccer.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I
We like
actually
to have a good time.
Yeah, me too. I used to play in a team with some colleagues from SDFC.
Oh, nice.
But hurt my knee, and I've been off the pitch for like a year and a half. But I'm looking forward to being back. So maybe we should
All
try.
right. Sounds good.
We'll play on his team from what I hear.
Yeah, okay.
There's just a wrecking ball.
I'll take that advice.
That's awesome. So what?
Was that so when you got into the sports side, did you go straight to SDFC or?
No, I went to the league office first.
Okay.
When I joined MLS, at that point, SDFC wasn't even a thought. The expansion franchise actually was going to one of two places, Sacramento or Vegas, and Vegas was pretty much a lock. And then something happened where the Vegas group ended up not considered, and the group that was ready to go was the San Diego group. And I remember exactly where I was when I found out, and my immediate reaction was, all right, I'm going there.
Yeah.
As soon as I get a chance, I'm there.
The timing was right.
His timing was perfect. So was really excited to bring something back to the city of San Diego, especially with, our history in sports.
Yeah.
Because I think SDFC is here to stay, and it's going to be a winning team. So it was awesome.
You don't think they're gonna move to LA?
No, I don't think there's a chance they move to LA with the investments they've made here.
Just kidding.
So I do think that if there is a team that will break the San Diego curse, it's this team.
Yeah. It
I
looks
have a
like they
feeling.
have. They
Yeah.
have already.
Yeah, I have a feeling. We'll see.
Yeah. What's the energy like there right now? I mean, soccer just seems like it's so on the rise, and just so much excitement around it.
Yeah, I'm not at SDFC anymore. I just parted ways 2 weeks ago. Started a new opportunity that we could talk about if you want. But I would
Tell
say,
us about your time there and what was the
yeah,
experience like.
the energy at SDFC is very entrepreneurial, very focused on innovation, very focused on community. They are a club, an ownership group, and a team within the office that is very invested in the city of San Diego. The academy that was built in Sequan Land in El Cajon, honestly, I think is one of the coolest sports projects ever built, because it's not only recruiting young talent and putting talent, up in an amazing facility with the most amazing coaches, but they're promising education. So when you join the academy, you get free education through college, fully paid for. Irrelevant if you make pro or not, that's the commitment from the academy, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But not only that, it's also the fact that they bring in talent from Tijuana, and they offer the same thing. So for me and my background, just thinking about the opportunity that a young, talented Mexican kid can have with this academy is not only amazing, but it's unlike anything I've lived. So I think every piece of the puzzle at SDFC is built for success.
I know nothing about soccer, so football for you guys. This is following more like a European type model. Is that right? Or
No, it's a very unique model.
Oh, it is?
So Right to Dream is actually now, they just won the best academy in the world in an award show in Dubai 3 months ago or less. It's a unique model in the sense that most academies worldwide obviously will recruit talent. But when you start to, fray off and not be on the path for professional stardom, academies will say, well, thanks a million.
They discard.
Have a good one. Yeah. And this academy doesn't do that. And they they kind of maintain the commitment through school. So it is a very unique, offer. But not only that, the other part is the global aspect of it. So Right to Dream has an academy in Ghana and Egypt, Denmark, and San Diego. So it's the only global academy that is recruiting talent. So
This is what Landon referenced. He spoke about some academy, right?
Yeah. No, he was talking about this. He's not involved in it, but he talked about it.
Yeah.
We had Landon on our
Awesome.
podcast, and he was also talking about what they're doing, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's honestly
Do
amazing.
they have a partnership with SDSU?
Now with SDSU, the recruiting classes usually are 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. For now, it's boys.
But I mean, as far as the education piece, or
I'm sure that they will. I don't think they do yet.
yeah,
When they were putting, young students in school from the Ghana, Egypt, and Denmark academies, they were predominantly going to like East Coast Ivy League schools. But now there's a presence in San Diego, it would make sense to, have a strong partnership with, SDSU, UCSD, all the local schools.
yeah.
So I'm sure it's, it's bound to happen, especially since we play at Snapdragon Stadium.
Yeah. Well, we had the AD on our podcast, and he talked about, the Snapdragon partnership
Yep.
and everything that was going on with that. So
Many how I had the line, yeah.
it makes
An important part of the landing of San Diego FC, because that was one of the requirements for the franchise to be awarded. So, big thanks to my alma mater for sure.
yeah, there was a lot of things that from what we heard is like all the stars aligned just to make it all happen.
It was a perfect storm. It was a perfect storm.
So then with all that energy and positive momentum and everything happening around that, then why the shift to this next move?
It's a good question. My time at San Diego FC, I had the opportunity to work in different departments, overseeing different segments of the business. When I started as SDFC, I was overseeing the operations department and, making sure that we were building operations manuals to welcome fans to the stadium and, set up our headquarters, etc. And then eventually I moved into not only owning retail, but also, growing performance marketing. And then I was in corporate strategy. So I think I ended up making a very, very tough decision to move on after a very long conversation with, Tom Penn, the CEO, about my career path. And he's a great mentor to me. And the opportunity that I was presented was just a really amazing one. And it ended up being one that I couldn't turn down. But I would say it was probably one of the hardest decisions of my life because I'm emotionally invested in the club. I was employee number 7. So building the club felt more mine to me than my entrepreneurial endeavor. Because I always thought that one was built to be sold. This one was built, with a lot of heart. So this was a really tough decision, but ultimately it was the right one, I think.
What were some of the factors that went into the decision? How did you kind of weigh those?
Yeah, I think it's family first, obviously. What's the right thing for my family, long term, short term, but mostly long term. Then it was career. How do I see myself in now and where do I see myself in 10 years? But also what was the best thing for the club? And I think it was the right thing for everyone. I told some of the owners that I'm friendly with and Tom, the CEO, that, I don't necessarily think this was my last stage with SDFC. I hope that down the road I can make a full circle moment and come back when the time is right. Because I do feel very emotionally attached to the club.
We'll talk about the opportunity at Fanatics then.
The opportunity at Fanatics was something that I didn't really at first. I didn't really entertain. It's
They recruited you?
Yeah, it started with a light conversation about our success at Sin UFC. It was a conversation about picking my brain a bit on, hey, what are you doing that we could be doing different? And then that led to more conversations and eventually to a position that was created for soccer because Fanatics sees obviously a huge growth opportunity with the sport.
For people that don't know, that are listening, can you tell us a little bit about what Fanatics is?
Yeah, Fanatics is a company that was started by Michael Rubin, who was, I think, one of the best builders in the U.S., if not the world. He started a company that services fans with merch, now betting, memorabilia, collectibles, with all kinds of different verticals of sports. And they service all the professional leagues in the U.S. and now a wide number of international leagues. So, they run the merch businesses for a ton of European soccer clubs. They run NFL, MLB, NHL, obviously MLS, NWSL to a certain degree, and others.
I mean,
So
they own the space.
they own
Oh,
sports.
I
They really do.
I don't buy Padres gear anywhere else. I mean, anything you buy, that's going to be the number one place to go.
Yeah, they really own sports. I mean, they do operations, e-commerce, you name it. They're there, and especially in the bigger leagues and NBA, NFL, they kind of own the space.
It's interesting. I always relate everything back to I grew up in Missouri, and soccer was around. It was one of the big sports. There's like baseball, football, and soccer's in there, but it was kind of on the bottom end of it, and now it's like, it's crazy. And I only know just by looking at social media of my friends, but like all my friends who I played football with, kids are playing soccer. It's like been a huge, I would say, categorical shift. Whereas I feel like out on the West Coast, it's been around and more prominent for a long time. But now I feel like it's saturating all the way through the country. So you're brought in to be the GM of the soccer division. Is there just lag behind it with Fanatics to get it to where they want it to be, or hadn't invested in it, or what was kind of the state of it?
It's funny you say that because my first memory is obviously SportsCenter, and there was never soccer on SportsCenter or any ESPN channel, and now obviously there is. And
There's a shift.
there's a huge shift, and it's multiple reasons for why the shift. But my move to Fanatics was really them doubling down on the growth path of the sport. I don't necessarily think that they were not invested before. I just think that they understand that the size of the pie now is just way greater than maybe they originally imagined. They've expanded tremendously internationally, and they see the World Cup and LA 28 as huge opportunities to really establish this sport as one of the major sports in the U.S. If we're not there already, to be honest, I think when you see average attendance in MLS stadiums and when you see the growth of the league, I mean, USL also, they have a growing fan base, presence of academies, youth participation in the sport, all the things. I think soccer is already one of the top sports in the country, but maybe eventually it will be top 2 or 3.
Well, I mean, with Fanatics name brand already established the way it is, for them to feel like there's an opportunity there, and then they're recruiting you in as a GM of that division, what you reference, they were asking you about what you were doing at Force. What kind of creative ideas that are outside the box do you bring a brand that's already that established to like accelerate what they're doing?
I think I just come with because I'm a fan. I've always had at least a decent understanding, and now a more educated understanding of the difference in fandom between the, let's call it traditional American leagues, the NFL, NBA, and the soccer fan, because there's monumental differences. It could be the exact same fan, but the way that they actually consume soccer or football versus NFL and NBA is completely different. And myself included.
Well, you also have you have the American experience of growing up here and the Mexican Latin experience too, to kind of blend those two together.
Yeah, it's true. How so? I think that NFL, NBA are such mature brands and leagues in the US that their focus is not so much in storytelling or, being community driven or ultra local. They're just huge commercial, behemoths. Soccer's never really that. I mean, there's obviously huge commercial behemoths in like Real Madrid and other European clubs, but it's always ultra local is what makes football or soccer special.
People have their team from their town.
Yes, they have the team from their town, but there's also there's something that LA Clippers are trying to replicate, but it's hard to replicate, which is the supporters. The supporter sections in Argentina, in MLS and Europe, that culture is really the root of fandom, and that's ultra local, and that doesn't exist in NFL and NBA and NHL. That's really what drives, I think, consumption. And the best commercial strategy for soccer is to have something that doesn't feel commercial, that feels local, that you can relate to, that feels kind of tribal.
Kind of this lifestyle brand.
It is. It's a very lifestyle thing.
Does that cast into the marketing of the product, the visual of the product? Like, how do you bring that into what you're doing?
It is. It's a huge brand play. Like merchandise, more so in soccer than any other sport, is the way you storytell the brand. And I think, in my opinion, it's the best marketing vehicle for any brand, not only financially, but also because it gets the most eyeballs.
Can you give us an example of like a story, like telling a story of a brand or a local brand that brings people in? Yeah.
So while I was at San Diego FC, one of my first ultra local collaborations was with Tribal Streetwear. They're one of the pioneers in streetwear, which you would never think they're from San Diego, but they're here. Obviously, they have a cult following here in San Diego, and we partnered with them to do something unique, not only for their brand, but for our brand too, that felt ultra local. So you're partnering with somebody that is traditionally, making really cool streetwear, but adapting their brand to our brand, and the main focus was to drive something that was genuinely San Diego. And when you do something like that and you story tell of, hey, why tribal? Because they're local and they understand San Diego. And then you build it in with the playfulness of the SDFC brand, you're able to create all kinds of marketing assets to tell a story of not only the club, but tribal and how that ties into soccer. That's a very powerful machine.
Really cool.
So replicating that, we built alongside a colleague, Sebastian, we built this program called the SDFC Playmakers program. And it was to really, build off of that momentum and help local artists amplify their voice in using our platform, really. And we ended up creating this ecosystem of over 100 artists that, were graphic designers, culinary experts, mixologists, all these things. And we either had events with them or did merch collabs or did something to hype them up. And that then gets the community bought in. And then you ultimately are trying to prove a point, which is, if you're an artist, you don't necessarily have to go to LA or New York to make it. If you partner with, SDFC or other people, you can make it here. And I think Tribal is a great example. They built a huge business here. They didn't go to LA even though they were advised to, and that's kind of what makes this game and collaboration storytelling so special.
That's really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. It kind of brings that back to the full circle of the Nordstrom's pyramid of like the
Totally.
customer,
100%.
local
Yeah.
experience. Like that's the most important, the focus.
It made me think of, how Wayne and Katie, like what they did with the Padres.
Yeah.
Like when I have friends come in from Missouri and they're like, I'm only coming in for this or that. What should I do? I'm like, well, if it's in baseball season, you can go to the Padres Stadium and literally have all the best moves to San Diego in one place because they've done that same kind of philosophy, right?
Yeah.
It's not just hot dogs and nachos.
And San Diego especially is attached to somebody that feels to them hyper local, because I think the San Diego sports fan has been burned by too many girlfriends,
Yeah.
and now before they're loyal to you, they're like, well, prove to me that
yeah.
you're worth my loyalty. But when you actually do, they're an extremely loyal fan base and a very diverse one that I think is very unique.
Yep. 100%. Wow. That's cool. Love it. What are you most excited about to take on, do, etc. at Fanatics?
I think Fanatics is such a global company that has tremendous reach, a lot of resources. I want to take this kind of playbook that I proved is successful at San Diego FC and share it with the rest of the country, with MLS, build a soccer business on the right things, which is, your supporters, your fandom, ultra local, storytell, so that commerce doesn't feel like commerce. It just feels like belonging. And going down.
We gotta quote that more. Commerce is no longer commerce, it's belonging.
If you do that on a global scale, I think it becomes really fun.
Oh, I love
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's so cool. Should we go rapid fire?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start with favorite stadium you've ever visited.
Azteca, Mexico City.
All right.
Well, that's a good one. I was just thinking about, oh my, man, there's so many good ones out there. What is it about that one that sticks out to you?
It rocks. Like it's not, I'm being honest, it's not beautiful, but the environment there, it's really, there's so much history. The people that attend, the way it rocks when either the Mexican national team plays there or beyond is unique.
We have the World Cup there now.
Yeah. World Cup inaugural game gonna be there, so I'm sure that's gonna be rocking.
Sounds like it's got an amazing culture to it.
It does.
Yeah. That's great. Green Bay Packers, old stadium, right? It's got
Lambeau.
that flair to it. So let's stay with soccer in it then. Is there any childhood memory that sticks out to you as a young kid that really just put soccer on that map?
There's multiple. I think the first one that I can think of was my uncle took me to see Mexico-Colombia at Azteca as a very young fan. And
Who were you going for?
obviously Mexico. But I remember, the game ended. I think it was a tie. It was 1-1. And, the people in the nosebleeds started throwing the traditional like cups filled with pee because they didn't want to leave their seat. So it just became like a downpour of pee.
Oh my God.
I was like, wow,
This is
that
the
is
culture?
unique. That is the culture.
Yeah.
Or it was at least back then.
People don't mind being rained on by pee.
Oh, they mind. But
Yeah.
that's part of the culture is, you look up and you hear like,
Keep your mouth closed.
So
keep your mouth
do
closed.
a lot of fights happen at this point of the culture, or
Nope. I wouldn't say, or at least it hasn't been my experience. I'm sure fights do break out
I
here.
mean, in America, if a bunch of pee start flying around, I feel like fists are flying.
Yeah. But it was a cool experience. And from there, every time I have an opportunity to go to a game, I think soccer, I prefer to live in person,
Yeah.
where, other sports I prefer TV, but soccer for sure in person.
The only pro soccer game I've ever been to was the Kansas City Comets indoor, and I was probably like, wow, 5 years old. It was electric, but I don't think we threw pee. So I don't know how we picked up the entire culture of soccer.
Yeah.
But you got to go to San Diego Sea game.
Yeah, I need to. I don't
Have to.
know
It's
how
it's so much fun.
Yeah, they're great games.
Yeah. All right. Here's one. If you weren't in sports or retail, what would you be doing?
Probably what I thought I would be doing after college, which is probably some sort of private equity, venture capitalist, something along those lines. I'm a data numbers guy, so probably somewhere in there.
All right.
Fun.
Yeah.
Where would you live if not San Diego or Mexico City?
Probably Europe somewhere. I love London. Probably London.
Yeah, London.
Still love London.
I thought maybe you go back to the Bruno origins.
Italy. I don't know.
Where in Italy is the family from?
Florence.
Okay.
But I find myself, I don't know that culturally I could align with the Italian culture because they're,
More beer than wine guy, huh?
I love wine, don't get me wrong, but I just think, the U.S. is very fast paced. It's like getting stuff done kind of mentality where the Italians take their time. And I just don't know if I could.
More fully piece suit kind of.
Yeah.
All right. So this is how would you describe your work style in one word?
Oof. Resilient.
And
Yeah.
Definitely a necessary trait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in entrepreneurship.
how's that served you?
Good. I think, there are times where resilience is good. You ultimately find, I'm not resilient in a way where I'm headstrong and always, drill at the same idea until I get a yes. I think it's a flexible resilience where I always try to find a way if I really believe in something. And that's served my career pretty well. I try to be unique in my approach, but always stay with one eye on the North Star, which has helped.
Well, let's stay with that for the last rapid fire then. Was there a time when shit hit the fan, MLS, FDFC, your own venture, where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, and you thought about quitting but pushed through that moment? And what was it?
A million times, especially during entrepreneurship. I think there wasn't a week that went by in the first 2 years that I didn't think, am I nuts? Like, is this ever going to be good? So entrepreneurship, especially if you're a sole founder, is very, very hard. Very challenging mentally, where you're always questioning yourself, your original motive, and whether the pain that you identified as, the thing you were solving for is really a pain. So oftentimes during that journey, I thought I was on the verge of failing. Competitive sports, you think that you're failing half the time. So when I was a swimmer for sure. And I think after I left Nordstrom when I was in New York, I always questioned whether I had made the right decision to pursue the career path that I was on. Especially because I've always thought that when people look at a resume, they kind of channel you into a lane, and my background was in fashion, but so I never thought I'd be considered for anything outside of that.
So what was it that helped you push through? I mean, besides the resilience.
What gave you the resilience?
Yeah,
What gave you the resilience to push you through?
Oh yeah, entrepreneurship was a huge one. Proving to people that I could be a marketing brain, that I could be, an IT brain, that I could be a finance brain, because you wear all the hats, right, in entrepreneurship. So when you're able to prove that you can actually execute different avenues, I think that opens up opportunity, or at least some validity when you sell yourself. So I think that's probably what opened some doors.
That's awesome. Well, should we get into Discover the Difference? So part of the Discover the Difference is, you giving you an opportunity to reflect back on, Bruno younger self. Maybe he was 14, 16, 18. What kind of advice would you give to him now, knowing what you know today?
I would tell my younger self. Actually the screensaver that I had on my phone not very long ago, which was a picture of this like amazing like backdrop of the beach with an overlay that says it's going to be okay. And I say that because oftentimes when you're flying very fast and you have a lot of self-doubt, it's good to remind yourself that if you stay true to yourself, things will be okay. It's really when you try to be somebody that you're not, that you'll fail because you're not someone else.
Yeah.
So probably that, just stay true to yourself and everything will be okay. Authenticity.
Yeah.
100%.
That's awesome. And I love what you said about it being okay, because we talk about this in these big moments, tough decisions, things like that. I'm like, we're all here, right?
Yeah.
Our lives are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like how we've failed a gazillion times. It's going to be okay on the other side of it. That gives you the trust to move through it. Well, the last part being discover the difference is on the different side of it. And let's exclude the persistence, since you already use that. If you were talking to the leadership of Fanatics or FDFC and they said, why you? Other than persistence, what's that thing that just makes you uniquely you?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know that is one thing. If I had to pick one thing, probably be I don't know. I know winning is probably along the lines of, being
As your graduate
resilient,
or on the field.
That's right.
but I do love to win. And the journey to win is not always linear, and I understand that. But I think one of my better traits is that I always find creative ways or creative solutions to get to a place that sets me up in a position to win. And I think that's unique about me. Maybe it's because I refuse to give up, which brings us back to what I can't use here, but it is that. I don't know that there's anything else.
Yeah. Love that guy. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much.
But yeah, thanks for coming on the show. If anybody's listened to this and they want to reach out and collaborate with you at Fanatics or something else, what's the best way for them to be able to interact with you?
Email, if you want to shoot me an email. LinkedIn.
Do you have his email? We'll get the email.
Email, LinkedIn, whatever is easier, best.
Awesome. Oh, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Really.
Cool chat.